All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual who's set to compete at PFC 14, Chris Lee Byrne and Jimmy Jungle Foster getting out there. A little throwdown in London going on at Budweiser Gardens October the 22nd, and very happy to be welcoming CLB back onto the program. How are you doing there, man?
I'm doing good, my man. Just hanging out, training, getting back to the groove of things.
Yeah, for sure, and obviously coming off a pretty significant injury with the leg. How was the rehabilitation process with all of that?
Man, I've been injured lots. I've probably had close to 30 breaks. I've injured myself more than I can count. I normally just kind of heal up, eat healthy, eat clean, and then eventually once I feel good, I just kind of slowly work it up with weights and jiu-jitsu, hot yoga, shit like that. So I'm feeling good. I don't think it'll affect it. A lot of people are concerned because I'm kind of rushing it a bit, maybe, you know what I mean? Because, a fibula break or whatever is pretty significant, right? But I think bones heal a lot stronger when they break. You know what I mean? And also the spot where the break is, if he tries to kick it, it's very easy to check too. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think it puts him a lot more at risk if he's hunting for it than it does me, because it's going to be healed stronger. And I feel good. I think I got all the technical tools for this fight.
Yeah, well, like you said, it sounds like it's galvanized more so, and you're familiar with similar kind of injuries. So I feel like you said, you know how to kind of navigate it when things like that happen.
Yeah, it's right where you check a kick, and on top of that, it heals stronger after it breaks, so I'm not really concerned about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because you did mention about the fibula injury, but I thought you had a funny tweet where you're saying getting out of a hot tub is harder on my fibula than a pro fight with Chester Post would be, so having a little fun with it.
Yeah, that was a nice fire chirp from me to him.
Is that a matchup you're looking to have? Because I saw there was another post you had circa July there where you were looking at a couple different matchups almost. Is Chester Post another guy you're looking to fight? Was that sort of the other matchup, or is there another?
No, I just like making fun of him. I just talk a lot of shit. But I don't want to. I don't want to fight any negative records, to be honest, at all. And his is one of the worst. I thought. Even Jimmy Jungle, I know he's 2-4-1, and he's on 2-fight loss streak with 1 draw before it. And I know I actually declined all negative records before. I didn't want to fight any. But, Faisal's the king. It's his show, him and Jamie champion. Faisal's the reason a lot of us get to fight pro at all. And Jimmy Jungle's moved here from Vancouver. I don't know if he used to live here. But he has a big following here in London, too, and so do I. So it's a good show for Faisal's event. So who am I to say no to the king? So let's get it on and take a ticket seller.
Yeah, well, those are always such great shows there. I feel like that was where we first met at the PFC 11 show, actually, the Knockout Kidney Disease show there circa September 2019. So historically, you've been on those shows. Yeah, that was that Scott Lamont victory there and everything like that. So, yeah, and they're always such good cards, too, and always seem to go to good causes as well. So, compounding the enjoyment more so.
Yeah, exactly. I think Faisal's always throwing his events for charity. Him and Jimmy Champion always partnering up. And to be honest, they probably throw the nicest shows I've seen outside like the UFC or the major orgs. They really go above and beyond with promoting it and the venue and everything they do. They're throwing this one at Button Gardens. Biggest venue in the city. It's going to be a sold-out packed house, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and kind of just talking about your opponent a bit there, because you were saying you don't normally fight guys who have the negative records, but just based on how, I guess, ensconced the Munda team is in the Canadian scene, I would think that you've seen this guy compete before, just being that he's fought for BFL and Rise and everything like that. Have you seen previous tape on your opponent coming up here?
Yeah, I've seen tape on him. The thing is like I said, I think the bone galvanizes more. When I'm watching tape on him, I think, I think I'm technically light years ahead of him. I think I have way cleaner, better striking, way cleaner, obviously better jiu-jitsu. I don't think he has much of that. But with that said, I don't take him lightly. I watch all his tape. The guy has beast overhands. He's a brawler. He blitzes. He's willing to take a hit to give a hit. Throws heavy low kicks and heavy overhands. So, those are dangerous strikes. But as I said before, that when you throw kicks and knees too, you know what I mean? That's going to give me a takedown. So, as I said, the main concern is avoiding that big, heavy right hand of his and, not letting him chop away at my leg. But I'm not too concerned about that. But, yeah, he's a dangerous guy and he's a gamer. So, I think it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, and I would think that the team presence is always strong. Like I was saying before, Munda Jiu-Jitsu, one of the more present teams throughout the entirety of the country there. But just being that it's like a localized to London kind of gym, and this being in the same space, I would think that this card holds a unique level of intrigue for everyone from the Munda team that's kind of getting involved. Is that sort of a fair characterization?
Yeah, me and the Hate are going to be on it. Nate the Hate, they'll probably be announcing his opponent in the next couple of weeks. We'll be bringing out a big crowd. I'll probably be the number one ticket seller on the event as usual. And yeah, so it's going to be massive, man. I'm pumped for it.
Yeah,
people I think he thinks that I think people look at this like, oh, it's dangerous. You don't get overhanded or a big elbow or stuff like that. People aren't always scared of jiu-jitsu because you can tap out. You know what I mean? But I think it depends who's the guy doing jiu-jitsu. If I'm doing jiu-jitsu too, you should be scared because if I get on top of you in the mount, I'll elbow your head right open. If I get a hold of submission, you better tap quick or else I'm going to rip it right off. So I think jiu-jitsu, people may not be as scared of it, but, they should be.
That's curious. Do you think that comes down to certain implementations of the technique? Because there's certain people with jiu-jitsu where they call it the gentle art, and they kind of lean into like that sort of part of it almost. Whereas like your take on it seems very mindful of like an MMA context, integrating the ground and pound. Like, why do you think there is that characterization some have with jiu-jitsu?
I think jiu-jitsu is because every martial art kind of has a different emphasis. Boxing's emphasis on punching and long combinations. Kickboxing the same with wheel kicks. Muay Thai the same, but adding clenched knees and elbow. Judo's emphasis on momentum, trips, throws. Wrestling, pins, slams, athletics. But jiu-jitsu is the emphasis on, I'd say, efficiency, chaining technique, and the checkmate, the lock, the submission. You know what I mean? So with efficiency being the focus, I think a lot of times slow rolling and stuff like that, and how you can gently dominate someone, hold them in mount or apply a choke. So they call it the gentle art. But people forget it's only the gentle art because you can tap, or if you tap soon enough. If it's not, it's the life-changing art.
Yeah.
You break your arm, you got 2 years of no work, no feeding your kids. It could be a life changer, right? So people got to be mindful of that and know when to tap.
Yeah, no doubt. And Munda Jiu-Jitsu has been mentioned a few times in our conversation, but where else are you getting in that work? Because I know in past you've honed your skills under, say, Steve Molitor and different things like that. Are you mostly just getting in the work at Munda, or is there a bit of cross-training happening?
Well, actually, Munda's kind of in a closing transition period right now. Actually, there's some other things in the works right now. But right now, mostly what I'm going to be doing my training with is the Molitor, Chris Q at Moss, and those guys. Enhanced boxing with Mark El Guapo. Most of my training will be there. And then I just kind of have some of my old goons over at my house, and we hit mitts and spar. Most of my training's with my brother David, who's looking to make his pro debut too this year. So, and Nate, of course, get enhanced boxing, of course, Moss, Muay Thai. That's a lot of my training. And a lot more weights, building that leg, just making sure it's strong, stuff like that.
Yeah, fair enough. I can understand that sort of breakdown of the preparations and all that. But you talk about Munda being in a bit of a transition phase. What does that mean and represent going forward?
Well, we're closing. We closed Munda about a month ago. So there's some other things in the works I can't really speak on yet, but there'll be some big things in the works for the next few months.
Well, that's exciting. In a certain sense. A bummer to hear that happened with Munda initially, but it seems like you're looking to kind of just build on what was already there. So it sounds like that's kind of the trending direction you're going.
Yeah. I'm not too concerned about it. I think bigger things are on the horizon, and I'm excited to show that to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have a certain design? Would you like to get in an additional fight after that this year? Would that be cutting it a little too close? Are you even looking at, anything beyond this fight? Not overlooking your opponent, but just as a broader strength of schedule for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I have a couple opponents in mind that I plan on calling out after. Actually, 2 to 4 of them. I'm going to be spewing a few names if I get the W here on my post fight. So I have some plans in the mix right now for sure. And I think a couple of the names I'm going to call out, people will be really excited to see those fights.
Yeah, I obviously don't want to ruin the call-out kind of, surprise factor component, but are these localized kind of fighters you've had your attention on throughout the circuit, or
I'd say it's just either upper-ranked guys that would be good for title fights people would like to see, good records. But I don't, like I said, I don't want to be disrespectful to Jimmy Jungle, so I'm not going to look past him. I'm going to wait to see how this fight goes.
Yeah, I feel like you've always treated your different fights like that, regardless of who you're in there with. I feel like you kind of are looking at it in a generalized sense in a similar kind of way. Like, in as far as like you're taking, say, like a debutant like Scott Lamont as seriously as you would have, say, like a Simon Marini, like one of the more experienced kind of guys there, just giving each guy their due.
Yeah, I think a technical fighter probably is always going to, because sometimes if someone's not technically proficient, that kind of helps in MMA. Like if you're doing kickboxing with 16-ounce gloves, the more technical fighter probably is always going to win. Still a puncher's chance, of course. But you can know those small gloves, your hands can get through easier. Sometimes that unorthodox, weird looping shot from a brawler where they just don't pace it, they go 100% on every punch. They just find their way through. You got to treat everyone dangerous. In a fight, both people are fighting, for their life essentially. So anything can really happen, and a cut could happen. Anything could happen. Hell, I broke my leg my last fight, and at first I had a little bit of bitch assness in me where I was like, he hit the lotto. He hit the lotto of the official, the initial reaction to it. But looking back, that's just bitch assness. He threw the kick. It broke my leg. Even if I thought it was a little fluky, that doesn't normally happen so easy in the first 20 seconds. You know what I mean? But it did happen, and he did throw the kick, so all the credit to him. But I definitely want to run that fight back. I feel like that's a win I'll for sure get.
Yeah, well, that kind of segued into my question, because just the nature of how the fight ended, like, they're sort of, I mean, like you said, he did, throw the technique with intent, and it did happen, but there was still a certain sense of, like, it not being, like, a full state of closure, almost, so that is a rematch you'd like to see come to fruition at some point?
Yeah, definitely. Like, in my mind, I look at it almost like he did throw the kick, it did happen. All the credit to him. You know what I'm saying? But I look at it almost like if you do a takedown, the guy posts on his arm wrong. Yeah, you did the takedown, but it's kind of a little bit, you know what I mean? It wasn't like he threw the hardest kick and landed on my leg. My leg broke. I ignored it the whole round, fought the whole round, and I won that round. And then it got stopped in between rounds, you know what I mean? And Tapology has that wrong on there, but whatever, I'll accept it.
Yeah, sometimes that happens on Tapology. Like, I was talking to someone the other day, and sometimes, like, there's just, like, a handful of fights that just don't even go up there. I mean, not talking trash, it's a great, aggregator and stuff like that, but, yeah, I definitely see that with certain outlets, for sure. So, I mean, I feel like just with that being the second pro loss of your MMA career, I mean, it seems, like, very different than the first one. Was there, like, a different series of lessons taken away from that, sophomore loss, maybe as compared to the unanimous decision loss against Phil Towler many years ago?
Well, both I learned a lot, man. I could fix my stance with Sharky and maybe, run that back. And I think I have more tools than him. As far as Phil Towler, I kind of just was too much of a jiu-jitsu purist at the time. I was comfortable on my back working for the sub, and I was close a lot of times. For one of the rounds, I lit him up, cut him. But, I just let him lay on me kind of instead of like ground and pounding me or trying to get up. So that's a fight. I want to run that one back too, but you don't always get the rematches you want. But I'm pretty confident that both of those guys are down, Ali Sharkey and Phil Towler, and I think they both would run it back. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's just an exciting time for the Canadian scene in a certain sense. Just feels like, I mean, knock on wood, it feels like we're kind of getting out of the sort of pandemic kind of phases, like just with, you having competed on Unified and just like Prospect getting back to it, like PFC having not put on a show since March 2020. So yeah, it seems like an exciting, vibrant time, at least relative to the last like few years.
Yeah, it seems like it's getting back to normal. I'm excited for it. I think a lot of big things are on the horizon, and I'm going to make a real run this year.
Yeah, is that like, are you already kind of almost mapping out a plan for like 2023? I imagine that's what you were kind of talking about there. Like, do you have certain goals and everything?
There's 3 or 4 opponents I want to fight, and if I can get through 1 or 2 of them right away, then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. Seems like you're gonna have a nice busy year, but obviously, checking out this fight here and should be a really good one and everything like that. It's cool that's kind of going on the same day as that like big UFC 280 card. So I feel like some of the fans in the Ontario area, fans of mixed martial arts, are going to be very spoiled that day.
Yeah, I think me and Jimmy Jungle is a very fan favorite fight. You know what I mean? We both like to brawl a bit. We both blast overhands. Obviously, I have a big jiu-jitsu edge on him, but I'm not one to bum rush takedowns either, right? So like in all my fights, most of the takedowns I've got are from catching kicks. I don't think I've ever shot for a takedown once. I think I've done a couple of drags against the cage, and I think most of the takedowns I've got are when I just catch a kick. So it's not like, and I don't think he's going to be looking for a takedown, obviously. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be good for the crowd. I don't see that one going past 1 round either way. He either blitzes me and catches me, or I pick him apart and crush him. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it should be a very fan-friendly fight, as you just alluded to, but something that you guys also have in common beyond that is the fact that you guys have competed across a few different divisions. Like, how are you feeling with this one being at middleweight? That seems to be like your optimal weight class, even though you have competed at, heavyweight and even light heavyweight there. So how are you feeling about this one being at 185?
Yeah, I'm focused on 185 now. If I'm going to make a real run at this and try to do something with it, then I got to be healthy, Heavyweight and light heavyweight is me just kind of having fun, rolling off the couch, if you will. But middleweight, that's when I'm showing up in good shape and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, for sure. Very much get that kind of sense from you and everything like that. And this should be a great fight for sure. I always appreciate you coming on and giving insights ahead of these different fights. But, I want to be mindful of your schedule too there, Chris. So is there anything maybe you might want to add kind of as a parting thought as we're wrapping up here?
To be honest, I think I'd just like to thank a lot of my sponsors, man. So Helping Heroes with Matt and Chad, they're great. KCR Construction with Ray. People should get at them if they need any renovation, stuff like that done. Innovative Electric with Tim. They're also great. They, electrical work. So I have a lot of sponsors. I want to shout out all of them. Flow X Tattoo Shop in London. Get at Jason Chappell. Supplement King. South End of London. Check them out. General Contracting with Adrian. Make sure everybody messages them if you need anything done too. Live Fit for healthy prep meals. Of course, King Faisal. Julia Toth at Toth Dental Hygiene. She does home visits, stuff like that for cleanings, whitenings, stuff like that. Everyone should get a hold of them. And Lionheart Training with so check them out. Check all those sponsors. These guys support me a lot, and I'm thankful to have them. And I'm thankful to get the support I get. I'm always selling shitload of tickets. A lot of people come out and support me. I always got people coming to me for sponsorships, which I'm very lucky for. So thank you for all the love, everybody.
Yeah, awesome to hear there's so much of that support, and I think that's especially going to be pronounced with this, London event going down at Budweiser Gardens. And yeah, just super happy to see PFC 14 taking place, and was stoked to see CLB on the card there against Jimmy Jungle Foster. And yeah, it should be a good throwdown, man. I appreciate you coming on the show again to reiterate, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of the day there. Best of luck with the preparations you got ahead of this one, and looking forward to, checking out the fight and seeing you when I'm there.
Yes, sir, Dylan. Thank you very much. I'll see you at the event, bro.
All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to compete at Budweiser Gardens in London, Ontario, and that is part of PFC 14, which goes October the 22nd. We have Jimmy Jungle Foster getting into the cage to take on CLB Chris Lee Byrne, and happy to be welcoming Jimmy onto the show for the very first time. How's your day going so far there, man?
It's been going pretty good, just healing up and getting ready to go back to the gym later this season.
Yeah, and where are you primarily getting in that work, nowadays? Like, it seems like you've been getting in a, decent amount of work with Arjun Buller's team per a post I saw you had a little bit ago. Are you still working with Arjun Buller's team largely, or where are you working at?
Well, I put in some, maybe about 4 years through different fight camps working with their team, and now I'm actually based in London, Ontario, training for this event. Arjun and those guys are up there in British Columbia and they'll roll at the command.
Yeah, no, for sure. I guess I just didn't know if there was a cross-training kind of component there. So, yeah, whereabouts are you getting in that work, localized to London?
London Movie Thai, Crew Benny. He's my guy right now. He's pushing me more than ever. It's a big fight for him, too. He used to train Bam Bam. I'm not too sure if you've heard about Bam Bam.
I have, yeah.
He's killed up at EMBC by their jail guards there. We're trying to get justice for Bam Bam still over a year later. But they're going to do a moment of silence for Bam Bam at the fight. And Crew Benny coached Bam Bam for a couple of fights. And so my fight's pretty much dedicated to Bam Bam. And so I've seen a lot of passion in Crew Benny's eyes, last month, just pushing me to train twice a day and just taking it to the next level. He's held more pads for me than anybody in my lifetime in this camp. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting watching myself grow.
Yeah, that must make this probably the most important fight you've had so far, just with the component of dedicating it to your friend. Is that a fair way to characterize it?
For sure.
Yeah, and I think that really is.
The whole family, so pretty big fight. And his brother is involved. Got a whole bunch of people making sure I train really hard. He's the one that actually called Crew Benny up and told him to make sure I win this fight. Got a bunch of different grapplers coming in. It's been really interesting, working really hard, and I just really do feel at my top right now that I've ever been in my over 10 years of training, just over 10 years now, and coming up to 21 cage fights or so. So, yeah, just starting to feel comfortable in the cage. You know, like sparring type, you know what I mean? You got to do that in the cage as well and have a little bit of fun sometimes. I got the, you know, I think I got everything else locked down, and just the composure and hard training is going to really help me win this fight.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it a bit there, like just with the, 10-year history in the sport. Like I was seeing the amateur MMA debut took place, September 2012. Like, have you been reflecting at any point throughout this month about that, decade-long journey, maybe different parts of the story that's been going on?
The way you just put it right there kind of, gives me a little bit of goosebumps. And yeah, just came a long way. And just overcoming things like pretty much composure in that cage instead of just trying to run at them. I've gone from running at them and being sloppy and to, almost getting my head knocked off and actually winning those fights. And then trying to be, the dominant one again and running at them and hitting them, just hitting them, but still not with quite the composure I need. So now at this point, I'm feeling aggressive with composure. And, I just really do think at this point, I got a really solid game plan. Yeah, I do kind of just see all the different stages. I'm reinventing myself at the same time.
Yeah, and it's interesting here because large in part it seems like you've mostly competed with BFL and Rise FC, like more centric to the British Columbia sort of scene, and just getting ready to take like the 20th MMA bout, just dating back to like the amateur days and stuff like that. Like, how does it feel to be competing in Ontario for this one? Does it feel a great deal different at all? Because it seems like based on some of the stuff you've posted on social media, you have like a certain kinship with like the London area, even though you also represent BC.
Yeah, it's kind of a success story. I went, growing up in London, it wasn't so easy to find a job sometimes and get on the right track. Went up to British Columbia, changed my life around, and yeah, I got some good training in there with all the different schools in the lower mainland. I pretty much know everybody down there. Trained with everybody as well, fought everybody to put in front of me. Now I'm back in my hometown. It was a bit of a success story, and some British Columbia swag.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering, like, just the previous awareness you might have had for Chris Lee Byrne. Like, was this someone you were familiarized with when the bout offer came your way, or perhaps not?
Yeah, like, I was actually looking at the fight like a year ago. Jay from Battlefield, he didn't want me to take it. He's a really good friend of me, mine, the president over there. So a year later, training hard and, just evolving in every area. And I just think that I've overcome a lot of weaknesses, and I'm ready to lay it down and take this man out in a strategic bout with the chest.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of fight. I was seeing some people in the space kind of characterizing it almost as like a bit of a throwback in a certain sense, like a striker versus grappler kind of breakdown. Do you think that's a fair characterization, or do you think each combatant here, like yourself and Chris Lee Byrne, like both of you have like nuances to your game beyond it being just like more of a striker versus grappler matchup? Like, how do you see that end of it?
Yeah, the bottom line and, each other's roots. I have been striking pretty much my whole life. It's just, he's been a grappler his whole life. And I'm sure he's been working on his stand-up a bit. And, anybody that's been working on his stand-up steady even for a few years every day. So I'm holding pads or making sure they're doing this practice. They can evolve pretty quick. Same with somebody in the jiu-jitsu world the last few years. I was going with a guy yesterday. He's a blue belt. You know what I mean? It's, just good grappling, good takedowns. You know what I mean? And just kind of pushed me a lot. Like another guy who has a brown belt. There's some good matchups. Those guys were pretty confident and do pretty good against Chris. But yeah, striker versus grappler. And, we're both gonna, I don't know. I think, in all honesty, if it was a straight boxing match, then yeah, I would probably lay down in the first round. But it's not a boxing match, so at the same time, I could throw my fist like it's a boxing match, take down both the time. That's what I'm going to be doing, and different tools to use when someone does go for the takedown too, and I'm going to be ready.
Yeah, and I was talking to him just like a couple days ago, and he was saying that he was like aware of like the power you brought to the table, like big overhands, generally like game kind of competitor, but also felt he was technically light years beyond where you were at. Like, what are your thoughts on not just that commentary, but like what do you think he brings to the table in terms of like a skill set there?
Like, his stand up, like he's just I don't know. I've done a lot of hard sparring, but usually it's me light sparring when it comes down to it. Finding a couple kids that have some pretty good experience, and that's just open it up, going light, working on our movements, and learning at that point. You also learn through the hard sparring, and like I said, with Arjun Buller and all those guys have bounced around to every school, and sometimes people look at me like I'm a bigger guy. They want to fly at me, and I just outpoint them without me smashing them too hard. So I've done so much sparring in my life. That's what you gotta make it look like sometimes when you're going to the cage too. Is you just sparring, have a bit of fun, and just punches and munches or whatever, and just kind of I'm planning on going in 3 rounds and just picking them apart and not losing my composure. So I think that's gonna be really hard for him to keep up with my striking.
Yeah, I can get what you're laying down in that sense. And we were talking a bit ago about like the personal connection to London. Like, how do you feel about competing in a history that has such a place in Canadian MMA history? Just like, different people like Mark Hominick and Sam Stout and so many great names kind of coming out of that space, and just such a legacy out there. Do you kind of look at that part of it and enjoy that part of getting to fight in London at all?
Yeah, for sure. What I mean? Just London's just pretty, I guess it's a bigger city, and we got a lot of cool fighters, and a lot of cool people just coming out to watch. Yeah, it's going to be a great time, and I'm just going to be prepared for all the people watching and put a good show on for them. And I give all respect to everybody in the whole community.
Yeah, for sure. And something else I thought was interesting, just with like the BC kind of connections we were talking about earlier on, I was seeing that in a July 2019 fight, you were using a Darcy McBride track as a walkout tune. Are you going to be using a Darcy McBride entrance song for this upcoming fight?
Not this time. I'm not too sure which one I'm going to use yet.
Maybe Mercules or something?
Sorry, what was that?
Maybe Mercules or something like that?
Yeah, no doubt. Probably Big Merc.
Yeah, but it's been great getting to have you on the show and talk a bit before this fight here, man. I do want to be mindful of your schedule and things of that nature, though. So to that point, is there anything you might want to add as a parting thought as we're kind of wrapping up here, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks to everybody involved at Prospect Fighting Championship. Dr. Purcell, just he helps out all the fighters get through the stages things like out. So, he's a one-of-a-kind doctor. And, just all the fans that are coming out there for Van Dam on the show up with that.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome fight going October 22nd, and anyone in the London, Ontario area should make sure they're checking out PFC 14 at Budweiser Gardens. And yeah, looking forward to checking out Chris Lee Byrne versus Jimmy Jungle Foster. Should be a good throwdown there. And again, to reiterate, I appreciate you coming on the show there, Jimmy, and looking forward to checking out the fight when it goes down too, man.
Thanks a lot, Dylan. Hope to see you there.